Good morning, everyone. My name is Waveney, and welcome to Wavelength. And every Wednesday, I share tips and strategies that serve to connect, inspire, and influence you to being your best in your job and career. And if you're new here, welcome. If you're not new, if you're a fan, welcome back. I'm so happy to have you listening today. All right. So we have been speaking about customer service last week, and if you haven't viewed the video from last week, go and view the video. I think it's a really great video. So last week I spoke about who is our customer, and I also gave insight on the customer service and the service element. And I basically said that, every interaction with someone is a service interaction. And um, if we would view each interaction that way, I think that the level of engagement, our customer service scores would go up. It would change the whole dynamic of that exchange. And so now, piggybacking on that concept, today I'd like to speak about adding value, right? And it can be perceived as what you are worth, or not but what the transaction is worth. It's the worth or the importance of something. And so I want to kind of challenge you to think about adding value in this way. Every customer service interaction, every interaction with a customer is an opportunity to add value. And I think that you would agree with me, because it's every customer. So the customer doesn't necessarily need to be buying something. They can just simply walk into your store, or if you have an online business, they can reach out to you to ask a question. And every opportunity is every one of those instances is an opportunity to add value to the customer. All right. You would think I'm filming this. You would think that on a Sunday, yes, I always prepare. You would think that on a Sunday, like, the place would be quiet, right? Like, people in the bed sleeping. No, not at all. People are up and about, people. Anyway, so it's not just an exchange of the good and service, or services that people provide. It's about the customer experience. And if you want to deliver a great experience to the customer, then you have to think about, how do I add value in each and every interaction, right? And so, it goes back to what I always say. You have to bring your whole self to work. Like, people have to bring their whole selves to work, especially when you are in a job that you have people, that you interact with people on a consistent basis. If that is your job is to be, around people. You have to bring your whole self to work, because I am challenging you to add value to each and every interaction, which means you have to be, you know, you have to be on. You have to be, you have to be present. Anyway, I'm jumping the gun. So every customer interaction is an opportunity to add value. And that is the premise, and I want you to think about it, and think about it really well. And so let's talk about, how do we add value? How do we add value? And so, do you hear that? It's like a creaking. Anyway, it's not like it's a lake, so so some sort of alligator or something will pop out. But anyway, um, how do we add value? So we want to laser like focus firstly, I think, on the customer. And I borrowed this phrase from an, a manager I had in my past, one of my old general managers that I had in my past. And he said, laser like focus on the customer. And if you really think about it, what does a laser do? If you took a laser and you, even those, what do you call, we call them, I call it a clicker, but it's probably called a presenter. And it has a little, it's one of those things that you use, facilitators use them when you're training. Instead of you tapping the computer keyboard to get to the other PowerPoint slide, you just sort of use it. So I call it the clicker. But it has a like a beat, it has like a laser, and that's how it signals, right? And it's focused, it doesn't bend, right? A laser is focused. You put it on an object and it that is where it's going. And so we need to laser like focus on the customer, and you do that with the customer in front of you. And so to laser like focus on the customer, you need to be present, you need to be focused. You know, sometimes people are standing in front of us and we have all these things going on in our heads, we're replaying something that happened, we are you know, all sorts of stuff is going on in our heads. But we need to really focus, right? That is the key word. And we need to listen actively, not listen and it's like, yeah, okay, I know what you want, I really hate that, right? And people are cutting you off, or yeah, I know what you want, but really listen to what the customer is saying, be present, take it all in, because when you listen actively, you gain so much information. People can tell that you're listening, people can tell that you're not distracted, and who doesn't like to be listened to, right? Who doesn't like to be listened to? It's not just little kids when they say, are you listening to me? Adults love to be listened to. So let's laser like focus on the customer. And I could end this presentation with that alone, because in that is so many gems of wisdom, but I'm not going to. I got you. So the second one is always give more than is expected. Always give more than is expected. And so you may say, well, you know, if the person comes in and they just want to ask a question, you know, how do I give more than is expected? Like sometimes, right, you go into a store or you wherever, a business place, and maybe it's new, maybe you've not been in there, maybe you're gonna check to see if they have what you want, or you think it's this type of store or whatever, but you go into the store and there's, you know, someone approaches you and they say, can I help you today? Good morning, can I help you today? And you're like, oh, I'm looking for such and such. And they're like, oh, okay, we don't really sell it. And that's the end of the interaction. There, you are missing out there. Because maybe the person is in a hurry, okay, whatever. But you can just tag on to that. You can say, no, unfortunately, no, we carry da. And do you have 5 minutes? Do you have 2 minutes? I'd like to show you what we have. Or maybe it's like an ice cream store. You know, I pull these examples right on the spot. Maybe it's an ice cream store, right? And like we have a local ice cream store, and I saw it on Instagram the other day. They have a Cheeto flavored ice cream. I was like, how does that taste, right? But anyway, say for example it's an ice cream store or some sort of place that sells food or beverages, and you can say to them, listen, we have this great Cheeto ice cream that we just created, would you like to sample it? You know, but the whole point is you have to, don't just let the customer walk out. And that's my whole point. Every interaction you can add value, because even if the person says, you know what, I don't have the time, but let me come back, they will always remember that. They will be like, oh my god, those people are so friendly, da 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 da, they invited me in. You want the business. Because guess what, if you're looking at this video, even if you don't own the business, you need a job. All right, you need a job. And if customers don't pay out for goods or services or come into your business places, you don't have a job. The business is gonna downsize, and guess who's gonna go? Right? You are, unless you're really stellar, right, and magnificent and great, or what have you. But if you were, you would be inviting customers in. And there are some people who do really great jobs at that, right? Really, really great jobs at that. But there are others that they just, I like to go from the place that people don't know what they don't know. I don't think anybody deliberately goes to work and says, I am gonna F them up to I don't think that. I really don't. I think people start from a good place, but stuff happens. But anyway, so always give more than is expected. And I just gave you a scenario, or even a simple thank you. Even if the customer stays or buys or whatever, thank you for coming. Thank you, please, and thank you. And these things should always be at the tip of our tongues. We, they were instilled in us from an early age, and I don't know, somewhere along the line growing up, we think that it's not cool to do that anymore. But trust me, chivalry is not dead, right? And use people's names. Do you know, have you ever had the experience where you go somewhere and the person says Mrs. whatever or wave me whatever? I've had that, and I'm like, oh, how do you know my name? How do you know my name? And I feel really good, and it gets me every time. It gets me every time because I know, because I'm in this business, I know that it's, that's great customer service. I also know that it isn't widely used and people don't so whenever somebody does it, I think good for you, right? But if you're listening to it, try to use people's names as much as possible. People love to hear, let it pass. People love to hear the sound of their own names. Who doesn't, right? And it shows the customer that you are paying attention, that you're switched on, that you're focused, that you're laser-like focused. So use people's names, say please and thank you. Always seek to add value, encourage people in, right? And some of you may not be in a position to you're not the owner of the business, but you can give your leaders tips and suggestions, right? The next one is, and I think this is a huge one, is pay attention to patterns, habits, and needs. And what does this mean? This means that we all have customers that come into our business places, or if you're running an online business, they ask maybe particular sets of questions. Each customer is different, their needs are different, stuff like that. And so if you're on the front line, you're front facing, you know the customer, you already know what they need, you anticipate the need. That's if you're paying attention. So a customer shouldn't have to come into the business place and ask for the same thing. Like, this is a customer, a regular, loyal customer, and they're saying, okay, I want this, I want, they want something in a particular way. You should already be preempting that. And that only comes if you're paying attention. Let me give you an example. When I go to the supermarket, I'm not into this a lot of bags, okay? If you're viewing from overseas, we still use plastic bags in our grocery stores. Don't judge us. We're getting there, right? Don't judge us. Because I know some Caribbean islands, they've evolved and they use the reusable bags, or they use paper bags, but we still use plastic bags. That's not the point. The point is this. When I go into the supermarket, I like to have my my grocery, I like them to pack them in as fewer bags as possible. And so they already know that. And sometimes I have someone who does it and does it well. And I'm like, oh, you packed it so well. And the last time I complimented the lady on doing that for me, she's like, yeah, I know that's how you like your stuff packed. But in all honesty, I don't really remember that lady. I didn't remember. To me, she's never bagged my stuff before, but clearly she either has, or clearly she was paying attention from another checkout point. But she paid attention. However she did it, she remembered, and I really appreciated that. And so that's just a small example of the way in which you could, just pay attention to patterns, habits, and needs, and it will enhance the business. In addition to that, when you pay attention to those things, you can better advise your manager or supervisor. Hey, I recognize that these people ask for this thing, or this is a trend, and so you advise them. And if you are the manager of an organization, don't just discard or discount this information. The people on the front line, the people on the front line are your biggest resources. Well, everybody, but they are interacting with the customers on a daily basis, and I feel like some business owners, they really need to take care of them. They really need to extract the information from these people. They really need to empower them and give them the tools and the space to do their jobs and to satisfy the customer needs. So that's another video. But if you're listening as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, get out of your own way, get out of your people's way, and empower them to do what they do best. Okay, the next one is offer your expertise, and that simply means, a customer is coming in, you are knowledgeable about the business, the product, the service that you are selling, or you should be, right? You should be, because if you're looking at my channel or my videos for any number of time, you would realize that this channel is for people who want to learn and grow. This is not a channel for people who it's like, woe is me, and you're whining and complaining. We don't do that. I don't do that. I don't tolerate it. So if you're looking at my videos, you would know that I'm a forward thinker, I'm ambitious, I'm successful. And the people who listen and view it are people that are on that train, right? So offer your expertise. You should know about what you're selling. I posted something last week Thursday, and I think that if you haven't viewed it, you should go and look for it. It says you should never tell a customer that you don't know, and it's a really great post. Go and check it out. But you are the expert, so offer your expertise. If the person is buying something, let's go back to the supermarket example, because that's the easiest. Because typically if you go and you're buying a furniture or a bed or something like that, people would want to, the salespeople would want to give you additional information, typically, right? But when you go into maybe a clothing store, or you go into the supermarket, some people don't do it that well. They just see it as, well, they come in to buy food. Well, I could buy food somewhere else. So one of the things you can do in that interaction is say, you know what, I recognize you like this, but I realize this brand is selling better. That's adding value. That's offering your expertise. Because who is the customer going to listen to? You. You're in there, you see the shopper's trends and stuff like that. So offer information to the customer, add value, right? The other thing that's tying into offering your expertise is free resources. Never underestimate the value and the power of free resources, and that could be something like the customer is purchasing something or whatever, and you say, you know what, um, there's a YouTube video on such and such and such. Or some businesses give out calendars, or they give out pens, or they have a customer appreciation or something. You can even, actually I'm jumping ahead, yeah. So YouTube videos, calendars, something free, right? It could be a PDF checklist. It could be, if you're in a supermarket, here's a great example. There are so many people who are gluten free, right? Or they have a special dietary restrictions, or like me, I don't eat meat, right? Um, I still eat seafood though. I'm transitioning slowly. Um, but you can have a list of items that, or a shopping list for persons who are transitioning to vegan or vegetarian, or you can have a list of gluten-free items, or you can have something. If you're in a clothing store, you could have the top 5 sellers, or the top something that goes with a particular color. Can you tell that I can't really dress myself like that. I'm not a designer. But you get the gist of it, right? So offer those things. Those things cost nothing. Ink and paper, that's it. Or even an email to the customers or something like that, right? But never underestimate free resources. Oh, I said this before. Use people's names. People love um, when you do that. I had it twice, so you know it's important. So use people's names. And lastly, create an emotional connection with your customers. That's how you add value. You get to know your customers. Obviously, when you first meet a customer, you're not going to jump in and start asking personal questions. Personal questions is a no-no, but you build that relationship. So you might hear one of your top customers saying next week is their anniversary. You may go to your manager or supervisor and say, listen, Mrs. or Mr. So-and-so always comes in. They have spent X, Y, and Z in the last whatever months. They're a loyal person. Their anniversary is next week, or their birthday, or whatever. Maybe it's a milestone birthday, and you're able to send flowers, right? Or maybe someone for them has died, God forbid. That's unfortunate. You may want to print a card. Everybody in that area signs it. Oh my goodness, my camera shut off on me, but basically my storage is running out. I really need to get an SD card. But what I was saying previously is to create an emotional connection. Create an emotional connection with your customers. And you're creating and you're building connections all the time. All the tips that I've mentioned, they give you, they're really the strategy to build that connection and to add value. But when you create an emotional connection, somebody is tied there because of an emotional reason, because of a reason that's important to them. And you do that through, the easiest way is through life events, anniversaries, birthdays, um, somebody has a baby or got married, and in the most unfortunate incidences, death. And that's how you create an emotional connection. And you're not just doing it because, oh, I want this customer. It is a great thing to do. It shows people that you care. And if somebody is patronizing your business, if they're a loyal customer, if they're spending their hard-earned money, um, it takes nothing to wish somebody happy birthday, send some flowers, and it depends on your business as well. I'm not advocating that you just go in and send all customers, but I'm just giving you an example of how you can create that connection. All right, so I've come to the end of my little vlog, and let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below, or an emoji if you'd love to be coached by me and you'd like for us to work together. Send me an email at hellowaveny@peoplesbrandskn.com. I'd really love to hear from you, and thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week on another Wavelength Wednesdays. Bye.